Welcome back to another episode of BD Radio. Today's episode is basically all about Men's Health Week. So, Men's Health Week is designed to provoke thought and discussion about what needs to be done to improve men's health. So, in our line of work, obviously, we work with a lot of dads in particular, and we tend to work on, practical solutions to improving not only their physical health, but the flow-on effects that has towards their mental health. So we can break those down a little bit today, but I'll pass it over to my co-host Danny, who is just going to hit you with some facts.
Hi guys. The sad fact is that females are actually a lot more healthier than males, and I think one of the reasons for that is that we like to talk a lot more and therefore address issues a lot quicker.
No one's arguing with that.
A lot quicker than males do. The health status of males is actually poorer in a lot of countries around the world, and males die a lot more often than females at the same stage of life, if that makes sense. Also, if we're talking specifics like suicide and health related conditions, so one's obviously the mental health and the other being the physical, your physical health, men unfortunately lead in the stats. And like I said before, I think it is because it is addressed a lot later, and it's just something that's just not spoken about. So that's something that I'll get Ben's opinion on, because obviously he can help me a lot more than I can, given I'm not a male. So why do we think that men don't talk about their health issues?
I would say as a gender, it's possibly not valued as highly as it should be. So I think, the things that we value more would be, providing for your family, or, progressing your career, or anything like that. I guess that external validation as well as internal validation. But I think we tend to put our own health on the back burner a lot more for other stuff, or sacrifice it, by working longer hours or stuff like that. Not making enough time to really address it, I think.
Yeah, so females also play a very big role in the workforce, and quite often
this stuff isn't purely only at males. This is very that sort of stuff is definitely a community issue. It's not a gender issue at all. But
so why do we think the statistics are so much worse for men? If you're saying that is the reason, so working longer hours, females work long hours, providing for their family, females provide for their family.
Absolutely.
Why do males struggle to even talk about it? Well, that's the first issue. That's why Men's Health Week exists, to open the conversation.
I think that, and it's changing now, but I think that traditionally it has almost been viewed as, not almost, it's been viewed as a sign of weakness to sort of put your hand up and say, I'm struggling a bit here, or, I'm not happy at work, I'm not happy at home. And, to be like, geez, what's up with whoever, he's been a bit soft, or, he's not tough enough, or...
I agree, men need to be strong, that kind of mentality.
Yeah, and, there's a time and a place for all that, but I think what we're sort of starting to shift towards, and I think possibly the younger generation are a lot better at this. And strength is the ability to be vulnerable as well, and to speak up when you are struggling a bit. I've got a lot of respect for people who do stop and say, I'm struggling. I've never thought any less of anyone who has ever done it. My respect for them's actually gone up.
Yeah.
It's not... Yeah, I don't think that people who are massively stoic, they're really great examples. I think people who are able to identify that they're struggling and be connected with themselves enough to know that something's not right, I think that's really admirable.
Yeah, so sitting down and actually being honest with yourself.
Yeah, but being open enough to accept that potentially it is out of your control. Like, I think things that are out of control scare us a bit, and we probably want to be like, oh, no, I just need to work harder, or that's all right, I just need to go to bed a bit earlier. But in the case of mental health especially, like, it's not a mindset. Like, something is actually wrong and it's out of your control. So I think that that fear of not being able to solve it yourself is possibly potentially makes it worse, because you just sort of keep running into the brick wall hoping that something will change until you acknowledge that potentially not all is how it needs to be, and then either seek assistance or speak to someone, and I guess just take that load off your shoulders is a big one for sure. And it's often that load that you can carry and carry, and then it's not until you take it off that you realize how heavy it actually was.
Yeah. Do you think that this kind of culture starts quite young? So like when you're in school, like what was it like? You went to a all boys school, like
Yep.
As you were growing up and maybe noticing like things changing, like did you ever think to speak to your friends about like physical changes, let's say for example, as you're growing up as a boy? Like I feel like unless it's put in a like a joking manner, like you guys actually can't have.
No, I don't think we're very good at being serious.
Yeah.
Or especially myself and my friends, like not in that group environment. In the one-on-one it's slightly different, but like what I used to do at school, like hanging out in, like a group of about 10 or 15 of us, it wasn't like, everyone listened to Ben, he's worried that, he's not getting as tall as everyone. Like it's in the one-on-one, definitely different, but yeah, especially myself and my friends, like it wasn't an overly understanding or like really in touch environment. And I guess you'd probably call us jocks at school. Like it just wasn't really the culture. Like there were some kids at school who, like they had counselors and everything at school, but I was just like I never went, never knew anyone who went. So, well, none of my friends, I don't think.
Out of sight, out of mind?
Exactly,
like,
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And even if they did, they didn't tell us. So it was sort of like, I guess it was a bit, no one was overly comfortable speaking up then. And I think it's something that as we get a little bit older, a little bit more mature, as I said before, and we've all got a little bit more life experience. Like I think, like I'd be a lot more ready to speak up now than I was as a teenager for sure.
Yeah, definitely. It's something we talk about a lot, and it's not just specific to men's health, but we talk about people getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So, like, I think men find it very hard to put themselves in a emotionally vulnerable situation. So, like, they don't want their friends to know that maybe they're struggling. But in reality, if they told their friends they were struggling, they might realise that a lot, it's more common than we think.
And I think that's probably what we've learnt with a little bit more age and maturity is that, like all the preconceived ideas of what you thought might happen if you did speak up, like it's not how it is at all. In fact, everyone is extremely supportive, and it possibly hasn't gone exactly the way you thought it would have. For sure, like I guess the tough exterior that most men try and put up, like that, once that gets broken down, as I mentioned, it would increase my respect for someone who was able to speak up.
Yeah, I think like when you say that tough exterior, like a lot of negative, like health concerns stem from that. So like for example, like the drinking culture is just so huge. like amongst the boys. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to go down to the pub. We're going to have a few drinks.
Yeah.
Like, that's totally acceptable. Yet it's not acceptable to sit down and say, hey man, like, I'm really not feeling good.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that's more of a society sort of community issue potentially, rather than just a
But also the links between that. So what we're physically doing to our body that then is having an even greater impact on our mental health.
Oh, most of what people in their teens and 20s, what they do for fun can have a really bad impact on not only their physical health, but also their mental health, like drinking, drugs, late nights, not enough sleep, poor nutrition. Like, all of this is just like a cycle, and you can just get drawn in, and it's pretty hard to get out. And and it can depend on this, on the circle that you're in. Like, it's pretty hard to defy your environment like that. Like, we always hear you're the product of the 5 people that you spend the most time around. Like, who are those 5 people, and are they a positive or negative influence?
Yeah.
Because not all of us are the same, and 5 drinks might affect me one way, but 5 drinks affects someone else another way, and it's it can be hard to sort of snap out of it, I guess, and break that mold.
I heard a segment on the radio this morning which really interests me, and one of the questions was, Ben, this is to you. So it was a female asking a male, if you had one piece of advice for all the men out there for their own mental and physical health, what would it be? So one thing.
One thing.
One thing that you would do.
One thing that they would do if I told them to do.
No, just one thing you do. One thing you think is helpful, or one thing...
Oh, obviously we own a gym and we're personal trainers, so I would definitely say exercise.
Exercise, yeah.
Yeah, some form of activity every day. It doesn't have to be intense, but I would say if you could strength train 3 to 4 times a week and you were outdoors for half an hour the other days, like, the trickle-on effect from a time investment of 7 hours a week out of 172 hours in a week. So there's 165 hours to then do whatever you want. My maths is probably off there, but it's not a massive amount of time to significantly improve your physical and then mental health. I would definitely say that would be my number one.
Yeah, so you need to find, so obviously that's, you really find exercise fills your cup.
Yep.
So, like, they need to find what fills their cup that is also going to assist their health. So,
yeah,
we don't want filling your cup to be having a 6-pack every night.
Yeah.
Think of something that is actually going to benefit.
It has to be something that decreases stress.
Yeah.
So pretty much as soon as you wake up to as soon as you go to sleep, your body is under constant stress. And then it's, what are you then, like, what choices are you making to help decrease that? Are you meditating? Are you doing some kind of breath work, like just chilling out and listening to a podcast, listening to music, reading, anything like that? And it can be completely individual for every person. Like, for someone, they might, going to the gym would be a added stress. They hate it. Well, then it's obviously not for you, but you might enjoy cycling. So commute to work. I think with this one thing to fill up your cup per se, I think it helps when you're doing it, you can only concentrate on that one thing. So you don't have the distraction of emails or the phone, ringing or anything like that. It's just an insular time where you can just chill out.
Yeah.
I think no matter what that activity is, if you can, it is all the time. I like watching the footy every week. And it's just because I'm not concentrating on anything else.
Can I just say, guys, Ben has never been so happy for the Saints winning the football last night
Yeah,
He was chipper. I don't think he could go to sleep last night. He was so excited.
I was glad it was back. But
So I'm glad the Saints are
but
back.
you know, in all seriousness, like, and I said to you yesterday, I was like, I miss going to the games, just because I wasn't thinking about work or I wasn't thinking about other stuff, or it was just I was there to watch the game, and that's what I did. So it was, and I think everyone has something like that in their lives. Like, some people like to go to the movies,
Yep.
and or read a book or just something like that. But I think making time in your schedule for something that fills up your cup would be the number one thing I would get people to do every day.
Yeah. Okay, so this also relates to boys. So like that's like more kind of geared towards men. What do you think we can do for the younger generation? Do you think it's just naturally because there's more awareness, they won't necessarily be in the same situation?
I don't know about that, because I got out of school, well, I'm 27, 9 years ago now, and I know a lot can change in that time. But when I was at secondary school, like, it wasn't I think maybe on Are You OK Day every year we had a talk about mental health, but in no way was it really spoken about, possibly as much as it could have been. So I think awareness is just the main thing. Like, the more people are thinking about it, the more normalized it becomes to speak up, the more comfortable everyone feels actually doing it. Whereas if it's rare, well, then there's possibly that fear around it. So yeah, I definitely think just, and we see all these great organisations out there now.
I was about to say.
Are You OK? Beyond Blue, the Resilience Project is one I was reading about last week, and they're so good that the more there are out there, the better. Absolutely.
Okay, what about being proactive on getting medical advice?
Well, this is a big one, because it's sort of like, and I would say it's something that my mindset has changed towards this since having kids, but it was almost like a badge of honor that
Not to go to the doctor.
not to go to the doctor. And it still sort of is, because everyone knows that one person who gets a sniffle and off they go, and it's like, God, like, just please, it's not that, it's not that bad. But also there's probably a healthy medium where it's, and I think as men, we wait for someone to tell us to go to the doctor. Like, I would have to be pretty, like, I had an earache, a few months ago? Like, it was bad. Like, I didn't sleep.
I am rolling my eyes.
I didn't sleep for a minute for a couple of nights, and then finally went to the doctor, and the dude was like, he's like, oh, he was like an Italian guy. He's like, oh, you're very tough, very tough. And I was like, oh, and I was just like, I was walking out of there with these antibiotics, and I'm like, what is the matter with me? Like, surely it'd be more beneficial to everyone if I wasn't walking around with a grimace on my face for 2 days at work. Like, just sort it out. And I think that, like, as a whole, I think me has just woken up. As a whole, we could definitely be a little bit more proactive with that and just not let it linger. Like, there's nothing wrong with just, not sure, go and get it checked, and then and I mean, that possibly comes, the continuing theme that you'll probably hear through this podcast is just awareness. Yeah. And just, like, the more you do it, the more okay it is. But especially for the older generation, there's the increased risk in prostate cancer and all sorts of issues, that it is definitely important just to have regular checkups. I think, as I was about to, I think I said before that having kids, like, it makes you think a lot more about your own mortality, and just, like, how important it is that you are around for as long as you can be. So I think that's changed my mind about a lot of that stuff as well, is that it's not just about me, it's about other people who are relying on me.
One thing that I think helps is that females go to the doctors regularly from quite a young age. So for pap smears, for example, we have to go every 2 years. Well, it used to be every 2. Now it's every 5. Yay! But that kind of gets you into that habit. Does that make sense? Whereas boys, sure. You guys never have to go unless you're sick and your mum makes you.
In the time you've known me, how often have I been?
When I've yelled at you.
Twice. I had an upset stomach for 2 weeks. Do you remember that at work?
Okay, that
it was
sad.
A disaster. There was genuinely something going on. And I went and did the test and never took it back. Just general idiotic behaviour. When I say the test, I mean, yes, pooed into a cup.
Some things I don't want to know, Ben.
But that's the sort of culture and ideas that we have to we have to deal with, is that we're trying to change.
Yeah.
Is that actually maybe seen through the doctor's instructions rather than just being it'll be right, or it'll sort itself out. And that's a cultural thing. Or
I think it would be amazing if the government introduced a compulsory health check every however many years from a certain age.
We've got plenty of ideas of what the government could do.
I know, but I'm just saying that would be incredible, and it would help the other end of the healthcare system dramatically. Imagine,
because there'd be a lot more diagnoses.
Imagine them
diagnoses.
Imagine
diagnoses.
Imagine we could get on top of things. There'd be a lot more things
diagnosed.
Yeah.
So then there'd be a lot more people actually getting treatment for sure. I think that when people say, mental health is it's at an all-time high, it must be social media, or it must be this and that. Humans have been the same for ages. I just think that it wasn't recognized, it wasn't actually addressed. I would be surprised to say, if as many people went to their GP about a mental health issue in 1850, I reckon the stats would be pretty similar. It's just that it didn't happen. There wasn't the outlet. You're looking at me like you disagree, but I'm telling you.
I was about to say, Ben, I'm not
obviously
sure
there's no
that
way
one.
of there's no way of verifying it, but I do think that it's one of those ones where there's more of it now because people talk about it more and get it addressed, which is ultimately a good thing.
Yeah, of course. So we've spoken about getting medical help, so that's what we just spoke about. Starting the conversation. So, you know what I don't understand? If I'm catching up with my friends,
yeah,
and there is something going on with me medically, that is one of the first things I would talk to my friends about, because health is so important to me.
Yeah.
Whereas that is the last thing you would talk about with your friends.
Oh, we talk we say, what's he do at uni?
About?
And I'm I don't know.
Yeah, I know. Your parents always ask you, how's blah blah blah? What are they doing? I don't know.
Yeah, he's alright. He was good. Yeah.
What do you talk about?
Just
keep it clean.
Other stuff. What we talk about now is different to what we used to talk about. All of us have girlfriends, but it's it's I don't know. It's just not part of what we do or what we have done, and it should be more. We just, hey mate, how you going? Yeah, good, and that's where it stops.
Well, next time you catch up with the boys,
oh yeah, I'm actually having a bit of a rough time, because it's you're 100% right.
Think about it next time you have a catch up.
Yeah.
And maybe you might be able to answer some of your parents' questions about your friends.
Where's he work? Something in building.
Unbelievable. And just remember, it's never too late to seek help. I think that's probably the saddest thing, when we're talking about Men's Health Week, is the suicide rates.
Oh, yeah, that's, heartbreaking, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So, speak to someone. It doesn't have to be your mate. It can be anybody.
A professional.
Yeah. Go to the doctor. There are heaps of organisations now, like you mentioned before, Beyond Blue. There's so many helplines.
Yeah. I think that's the worst, is when someone struggles for so long, no one knows, and that's the outcome. Like that's so sad, you know, that it could have potentially been avoided. I think anytime, you know, anything like that could have potentially been avoided, that's the worst.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Like if there's anything to come out of this is just a couple of PTs talking about men's health, it would be that it's it's never too late, and if you could do anything to help, then you definitely should. I think that's the absolute worst, like worst nightmare for sure.
Yeah. All right. So in terms of some practical tips, some practical lifestyle tips to help manage.
Yeah, we can go pretty rapid fire on this stuff. So let's take the conversation back a bit more towards mental health. I spoke about weight training, number one, but keeping it general, exercise. Yeah, and I think lots of boys in particular, if they're not sporty growing up, it can be typically something that they avoid, because no one, I guess, and this is across both things, but I think what we've sort of spoken about today is men don't really want to be in a vulnerable state much, where they're not really good at something, and they don't want to be laughed at, and no one wants to be laughed at. But I think even in our experience of training clients, ladies are much more able to deal with not being proficient at something, and maybe taking a little bit more time to learn the skill without trying to progress past where they're capable. So men,
they have more patience. Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Or they come with less preconceived ideas of what they should be able to do.
Yeah.
So, I need to be able to squat this much. I need to be able to bench press this much. Like, just take it slow. Just a little bit more every time. View your progress in the gym or any kind of exercise that you do on a continuum, not like tick the box or not. Just aim for a little bit better every time. Nutrition wise, I think where lots of guys go wrong, yes, and Danny's just mouthed the word alcohol to me, so
I feel like I'm always the Debbie Downer. I want you to say, ultimately,
like, our nutrition, like, it should help what fundamentally makes us us. So for men, we hear the word testosterone a lot. There are lots of things that men do socially that hurts their testosterone. That would be alcohol, processed foods, overeating, undereating, excess body fat, like all sorts of stuff, like poor sleep. Did I say sleep? Poor sleep is a big one. So nutrition, the first thing I would get you to focus on is just improving your food quality. So that means trying to not eat as much processed foods as possible, and slowly making the transition. And again, emphasizing slowly, because it's not something that, if it's going to be sustainable, you can't go cold turkey. It takes a rare person who can just be like, I quit potato chips. It's like, no, just quit potato chips during the week. Like, just try and make the slow transition across to a diet that consists predominantly of whole foods, and that is food without a label. Secondary to that, once you've sort of improved your food quality a little bit, increasing your protein. I think the Western world, the Western diet undereats their protein, especially ladies, but today we're talking about men, and by quite a lot too. So once you've improved your diet quality, then you can start to try and improve your protein. And how do you know if you get enough in? Basically, if you look at your plate every time you eat, and you can see approximately 2 palms of a lean protein source as a general rule. So if you look at your nutrition now, and you are eating no palms at some meals, don't go straight to 2. Just try and make sure there's half a palm, 1 palm. Just slowly improve, because I think people overestimate the change they can make in 4 weeks, but they significantly underestimate the change that they can make in a year of just slow progression.
Yep.
So that's movement, nutrition, lifestyle, sleep. Sleep is the big one. if you are currently getting less than 7 hours, 7 hours we would consider an absolute minimum to try and get consistently. I think consistency is the main one with sleep.
Yeah.
As it is with everything, but especially with sleep, because late nights here, early nights there, like it throws you off, and that can impact your sleep quality. Like it's not just enough to lie in bed for 8 hours. Like it needs to be a quality 8 hours. So I would say try and possibly think about having a bit of a nighttime routine just to help you wind down would be a really good idea.
I was just about to say that. We do notice the people that have a solid routine.
Yeah, some kind of structure.
Yeah. That definitely benefits them.
Yeah. And it can be something as little as putting the blue light filter on your phone, or, reading before bed, putting some blue light blocking glasses on, but just stuff like that signals to your body that it's time to start winding down. On that, you could possibly improve your sleep. Like if you're a big coffee drinker, try not to have any after lunchtime. You don't really want to be having stimulants, like 8 hours before you go to sleep. As a general rule, I think that's a good one. So there you have it. What's that? Lifestyle, nutrition, exercise. Anything else you want to touch on in specific for guys? Specifically for guys?
Just managing like the whole life, work, family, financial. Like I do feel that men often feel the pressures of like financial and work a lot more sometimes than females. Like they feel like that's their role.
Yeah.
And because of what you said before, I think because of society, like how it's been in the past, and
yeah, well, it's like if you have a good job and like nice house, and it's like, oh, he must be successful.
Yeah.
But it's what you define as successful.
So being able to manage all of that, like, because that all comes back to your personal well-being.
Yeah, I think all that can be avoided by just having a clear either conversation with yourself or conversation with your partner on what's important to you.
Yeah.
So okay, it's important that we're both healthy. All right, well, I might have to sacrifice a little bit of overtime to make that happen.
Yeah.
So I think that by not having that conversation, and it comes back to what we were talking about before with that, avoiding that sense of being vulnerable, then you can really set some clear expectations on what either you or yourself and your partner want. Yeah.
So just being very honest, because as soon as you're honest with yourself, then you can measure it basically and manage it. But until then, if you keep kind of sweeping it under the rug, it's a little bit hard to identify.
Well, yeah, and it could then potentially snowball onto larger issues, which is what we're talking about today, I guess, is slowing up that snowball and potentially stopping it.
Yeah. Just talk, guys.
Yeah, awareness is key if you're to take anything. This is our final episode of BD Radio before we move indoors.
Oh.
It originally started off as, I guess, a shutdown project, is something that we thought we had time for, but I knew it would be good. Danny took some convincing, but I think she's finally sold on the idea that it might be a good thing to continue. So we look forward to bringing you more episodes in the future, and maybe bringing on some guests too after Tom's success last week.
Yeah, they all loved him.
Great man. All right, we'll see you guys next week.
Bye, guys.